All right. It's that time. It is championship week in the state of Florida. We made it, fellas. We made it. We went from August, in the heat of August. Actually, really, we started before that. We started at Media Day back in July, and it has been a phenomenal, a truly phenomenal season. I look at pretty much just how every team progressed, and I think it's amazing when you get to a point where it's finally championship week, especially for the teams that are competing for a championship. The journey is one of those things that you never forget. Each year we get a different team. We kind of we get teams from that nobody saw coming. We get some heavy weighted favorites where everybody knows that they're going to be playing in December. But we finally made it. We're here, championship week here in the state of Florida, especially in the North Florida corridor on the I-10 way through the Big Bend and the Panhandle area. It's the Extra Point. I'm Mark Adams, Coach Cofield, Eddie Quinkers Jr., my tag team partners. As always, a lot of what we saw just as we were talking through earlier is just looking at how teams are set up and how they're built. A lot of what we've seen so far this year is just dominant teams really being able to kind of stretch themselves in the playoffs, and that's what the playoffs do. They there's so many close games. There's so many games where it's just the ball bounces one way or the other. One team goes home, the other team survives and advances, and here we are. I wouldn't have it any other way. I think it's the most beautiful thing in all of sports. But as we have entered here into the first week of December, we turn the page from Thanksgiving. I hope everybody enjoyed their turkey day. I still got leftovers in my fridge. I don't know about y'all.
You better throw them away.
Yeah.
You better throw them away.
Hey, you gotta turn. Hey, no, I'm from my parents are old school. You gotta turn that into a soup or a chili or something. Like hey, you gotta do something with that.
Yeah.
A lot of what we do at this time is, especially now in the new era, it is National Signing Day. It just creeps up on you just like that. We have a whole host of names to read off, and this is just the beginning of the signing day period. We follow up again in February, where kids can still sign up until I think sometime through May. So we're going to be seeing a lot of the area's best sign right now. We're just going to run through this list real quick. Coach Cofield, you had I think you had almost like 22 names on the list so far.
I didn't count. I just was going by what I read. It was back in the day. 4 quarters used to go to everybody's signing day.
Yeah, back when it was one signing day, we used to hit the streets hard. We used to hit the streets heavy. We probably, I think we've been to every auditorium and gymnasium. We've even been to people's houses.
I remember while being a student at Leon, you guys come in to at least, check up on our signings and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I have a memory of that.
Big Red Barn, we've been in there. Lincoln does a great job. Gabi does a great job in the auditorium, in the libraries. We've been everywhere. Guidance counselors' offices, principals' offices. We've been there. So signing day is a huge tradition. Please don't hold us at fault. We know we're not going to get to everybody because we're still getting in a lot of information as of earlier today. But so far from Rickers, we had Jacoby Gilbert, Alabama A&M, Carlise Price, Mercer, Carlos Roll, Alabama State, via Gaston County. Darius Simmons headed to Cincinnati. Zach Hall headed to South Alabama. Dalen Green going to Florida State. A Kobe Green going to Florida State. Lorenzo Barnes from South Florida. He'll be headed to be a Bull down in Tampa. Via Madison County. Dre Arnold going to FIU to play for Shotgun Simmons. Him and Zay West going to link up and play on South Beach for the Panthers. And LJ Crumity, had a chance to watch him in person. Incredible talent. He's going to be headed to Georgia Tech. From Lincoln, we had a chance to watch this kid all day long. Taylor Jacobs headed to South Alabama. Jelani Wilmer, Cotton going to Alabama A&M. Cabron Paul going to App State up in the mountains. Good luck to these guys. From NFC, Redarian R.J. Jones headed to Jack State. From Childs, Cade Fryer also going to Jack State. We got a few more from Childs. Give us some time. We'll get through all the names. William Hathcock headed to Jack State. These are some Taylor County Bulldogs. Vern Falk also going to Jack State. And shout out to the Gamecocks coach staff. They came through Tallahassee and just cleaned up.
But they you know who the head coach is, Coach
Oh,
Kelly.
yeah.
Coach Kelly and the part of the staff was at Florida State, so they know this area pretty good.
Brian Sardinius headed to Stetson to be a Hatter from Mosley. Adam Land already signed with Mississippi State. He's going to be a Bulldog. Bubba Griffin, he signed with Delaware. From Blountstown, Amari Thomas, we already know where he's headed. He's going to be a no. We got several more names, so just bear with us. We're going to get to that later on in the show. And next week, we're going to do a whole signing day. So we'll have most of all of the moving and shifting. We know of some guys that were going to sign and they postponed their signing, maybe just to get some stuff right, make sure they headed to the right place. So we want to make sure we get everything right. So next week, we'll do a whole recap show. Make sure we throw up graphics and everything. But again, it's a big week, championship week here in the North Florida area. We got two teams headed down to the villages, loading up buses. I can't imagine what it's like right now, just a few hours. I think we're 48 hours away, or less than 48 hours away from being able to watch the Tiger Sharks take on Fort White in the Florida Invitational Tournament down in the villages. And then in the nightcap, we got Blountstown, Hawthorne, another heavyweight matchup. We're going to break it all down for you guys in here just a little bit. But guys, man, championship week, one of the things I like about it is just the preparation. It's nothing like practicing for a state championship, coach. You know firsthand what that week is like. There's so many fine-tuning things that you want to get done, all the details, who's going all the way down to the buses, the hotel rooms, and what you're going to eat. Talk to us a little bit about what that week is like.
Man, it's an exciting week. Had the opportunity to do it twice. It was different both times. We were the underdogs the first time, and we were the favorites the second time. And we won as an underdog and lost as the favorite. But going through the process, the first time we went, it was in Miami. Great. That was one of the best experiences in my life going through. It was like you were in a bowl game. We ate breakfast early. The game was at 1, and we got to go to. I guess back then it was a Joe Robbie, it's Hard Rock, whatever, and we had the highway patrolman lead us to the stadium. We pulled in about 10:30. Couldn't go on the field until a certain time. The locker room, being at a pro stadium, is unbelievable because you are in the locker room. They got all kind of amenities. Each coach got his own room to sit in, like you getting ready for an NFL game or something. And I think they had 4 locker rooms at the stadium. You know, they put all the high school kids on one end of the stadium. And when you go on the field, man, it's just an unbelievable feeling. You're nervous. You're getting ready for, you don't know what's going to happen. Getting out there on the field, people talking to you, cameras everywhere, people excited because it's the last game. You got a chance to play the last game of the season. Exciting. The kids are excited. The night before was kind of tough because you can't really get much sleep because you're thinking about the next day. And fortunately, I was happy we played the first game, so that made a big difference. And we got that out of the way. We got to the game. I mean, it was up and down. The first play of the game we played, it was a touchdown. They scored on an 80-yard speed sweep. And I was like, dang, we behind. We stayed behind almost the whole game, came back at the end and won. That was exciting. The other game was quite the opposite. We led the whole game and lost at the end. So, man, it's an experience it's hard to explain to people. But when you're in football, playing for a championship makes a big difference because that's all you want to do. The preparation, everything's done. You really don't practice that. Practice you already did it. You weren't finna add too much new. You just want to make sure you cross all your T's, dot all your I's, and you do all your scouting. The kids know what to do. They're excited. Once again, the best experience was in Miami. We got to practice at a high school. Uh, People came from all over since we were at FAMU, a lot of former FAMU players were down there. It was quite an experience. And so, I can imagine these coaches, if it's your first time, man, the nerves, because you just want to hurry up and get the game. You just please hurry up and start so we get this over with. And once you get in the middle of it, it's just like a regular game. You want to do what you got to do.
Yeah, one of the things I think that I admire just is the treatment. It's almost like you get the superstar treatment, and you're used to getting on, city buses, or excuse me, the school bus. You're riding around the different towns, and now you finally get on the charter bus. You're running red lights. You got the sheriffs in front of you. It's a real, and I mean, it's nothing like it. And then when you pull up to the stadium, it's one of those things where they really are giving you the bowl treatment, or at least from what I've seen. And so, I imagine for Coach Jones and for Coach Wagner, it's just an experience that you want your guys to really soak in and just kind of understand. Not everybody, everybody that plays football doesn't ever get to compete for a championship. It's a rare treat. And so I know a lot of these guys, you're going through practices and everything like you would for a regular game week, but there's just something extra about it, because once you step into the stadium, it's a different atmosphere. It's just nothing like, especially when they were having it at the NFL venues. You going to the Citrus Bowl, or you going to, really you going to Hard Rock Stadium, and it's just a different aura about it. There's nothing like it. So, man, shout out to
and one more thing I want to say: the coaches, when they get in that situation, you really have to make sure your players understand one thing. The main thing is the main thing, the game. All that other stuff is okay, but when the game starts, you make sure you do what you're supposed to do every week. The same thing. Don't change. Don't change your routine. Keep the kids. The main thing is the main thing. The game.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been told is that it's a lot of hype, it's a lot of pageantry, it's a lot of fireworks going off, so many distractions. But the minute you hear the whistle, it's like everything just clicks into place. So I'm looking forward to it on Friday. But let's go ahead and recap from last week. Eddie, you and I were on hand for another great matchup this time between Blountstown and Pahokee. This one was for the trip to the state championship game. And honestly, based on what we saw, I just felt like Blountstown looked even more dominant than they did the week before in a very, very close contest with Madison County. Pahokee came out swinging, but, what can I say? Blountstown just had everything clicking for them as the Tigers take it over the Blue Devils 30-3. Great matchup. A lot of what we saw was, plenty of Amari Thomas, but we also saw the Blountstown defense really, really show out.
Yeah, you said it, Mark, man. It was just a fun night for Blountstown, the football team, the community. They came out dominating. Only one time was this game close, and that was at halftime when Blountstown was up 8-3. It was the only time that Pahokee was able to score, was headed towards the end of the first half when they were able to get a field goal. I think for the Blue Devils, man, they had some moments, a few sparks here or there, but nothing too consistent on where they could score a touchdown and get 6 on the board, especially as the temperature dropped that night as well. It slowly got colder. When we arrived, it was, we were seeing ourselves in the mid 40s, and then by game time it got down to 40 even, and then it was 39 degrees, it was 37 degrees, and by the time it was close to the fourth quarter, it was like 36 degrees. So the cold weather, I think, definitely played a factor for the team from Muck City. But as for the Blountstown Tigers, they were fully dominating. Quarterback Jones was phenomenal, getting some big plays happening, and of course the FSU commit Thomas with running the ball. This team was focused and determined and is now getting ready to play for a state championship.
Yeah, there's just a different I think that Blountstown just hits a different gear, and when you look at how everything really shaped up for them, it was a different kind of atmosphere because a lot of what we saw was just a lot of back and forth. I think Pahokee definitely came with a pretty decent game plan. They wanted to really kind of limit what Thomas could do, and for the most part, their defensive front was pretty stout. Like you said, Eddie, they kind of stymied Blountstown in the beginning of the ball game, and I think honestly, the thing that I was most impressed by was just the Blountstown offensive line. They didn't flinch, they didn't give up. There were moments where they had some miscues here and there, but I think for the most part, they were the better composed unit of anybody on the field. They didn't. I don't think I saw a holding penalty, maybe one out of that whole group. They kept their quarterback's jersey clean as he was able to get loose and break free for some big runs. They just did their job. I think it was a hat on a hat, and then finally you see Thomas breaking free here on a run for the first touchdown of the evening. But for that group, to me, I think they were the biggest heroes of the night. It was that offensive front unit. Then I also got to throw a huge shout out to the Blountstown defense. Everybody on defense. I think there were about 4 or 5 picks that just got left on the field. A lot of those guys were just ball hawks that night. Pahokee I mean, they're a really good passing team, but I do think the colder temperatures just made it really uncomfortable for them. And when Blountstown got going, I mean, they did not let up. They were, and just understand this is a heavy hitting team. Like they were really, there were some big hits, especially in the second half as they just put things away. Thomas on another big run, just grinding out yardage there. And honestly, I think Blountstown, man, you look at what they can do in the trenches, and then you put that together with a lot of playmaking ability on the defensive side. This is a really tough team.
Mark, I noticed something being an observer of the game when seemed like the cold did affect Pahokee. They like to throw the ball. Maybe you got to get used to this weather up here. I don't know exactly what the temperature was, but if you're used to playing in warm weather over and over and over, and then all of a sudden you hit this cold, it's an adjustment period. And throwing the ball is a little different, but Blountstown is doing something that carries all the time. When you can run the football, it doesn't matter what the weather is. Your offense is going to be solid. And I watched the game. When I was watching the game, I just love how they just line up and run the football. And they did it. I thought the coach Wagner did a great job when he started the option, when he was doing the option, because they had their whole focus on Thomas. And when he ran the option, the quarterback kept him off balance when he kept the football. Great move for him in a game like that, because I know all week, Pahokee coach was telling him, you got to stop number 4. And he was right. You do have to stop him.
Yeah, so much of what happened in that game was just Blountstown just repeatedly making sure that they got after it on defense. They complete and Pahokee, credit where credit is due. I think the game plan was to really find spots on the edge in the passing game. And Blountstown just systematically, they picked up on it. They made great reads defensively, and they just started taking away those passing lanes. And they made, I think, Xavier look really uncomfortable in the pocket as he just, after a while, it was just nothing he could do. He wasn't able to get away from the Blountstown defensive front. And, it was just Tigers all the way. I think another huge shout out just kind of really goes to, there's so many guys, but I definitely got to give credit to Blountstown quarterback Jalen Jones. Just had a great night of just managing the game. Didn't turn the ball over. Made great runs when he had to with his legs. Made a few great throws when he had to. But he was a force I think they weren't prepared to deal with, because when he started running the ball, as they were geared up to stop Thomas, it just added another wrinkle into Blountstown's offense. And if you're Hawthorne, man, I know they're going to be looking at tape, wondering like, man, where is this? Which guy do we stop? Because there's so many playmakers on offense that when you add the quarterback into it, it just gives the Tigers another ripple. But yeah, Blountstown was able to jump all out to a huge lead over Pahokee, and man, they just coasted the rest of the way and just kind of shut the door. But yeah, looking forward to this. We'll get to the preview here in just a moment. So hang tight for those who are watching. We're going to be previewing the state championship for the class rural classification here in just a moment, as Blountstown, undefeated and unblemished, will be taking on the Hawthorne Hornets. Meanwhile, just about 50 miles south, there was another great game about 100 miles out west. Childs, man, riding in on a bit of a hot streak, and really making history in that regard. Timberwolves finished the year 8-5 with just an unfortunate loss at Gonzales Tate, where they fall to the Aggies on the road. But for the Timberwolves, this is really one of those where, man, every player on the Timberwolves team should hold their heads up high. This is a phenomenal season. I think they definitely put Child's football team, in my opinion, they vaulted them to a different level. Anytime you can make a deep playoff run, you turn heads. But it's also for those younger guys, I mean, you're getting 3 extra games, beyond the 10-week season. That just is going to be more experience going into next year. These guys have faced adversity. And I think, for Coach Reagan's, the team that he returns next year has a chance to do something special as well.
Yeah, Mark, when you get a chance to play extra games and getting a playoff experience, even though it's not FHSA, they were in a tournament, and these kids got used to it. They're not going to be next year. If they're fortunate enough to get in the playoffs, it's not going to be strange to them. Those kids know how to play in a game because it's a one and done thing when you're in the playoffs. Coach Reagan, I thought he did a great job. They barely missed the FHSA playoffs. Did a great job in the tournament. It can't do nothing but help the program in the future.
You said it, Coach. To add on that, this Child's Timberwolf team also faced a total of 3 different schools from 3 different classifications. I think one of their first 2 meetings were against Class 6A opponents, and then the last one, I think, I think Tate is also 6A. So they faced a fair share of different schools from other classifications, and they now have postseason experience from the FHSAA's Florida Invitational Tournament, and we'll see where that leads for the returning team next season, and hopefully have a chance to make it in the Class 5A state playoffs. Because that's one thing I liked so far about the Florida Invitational tournaments, is to see where these teams that do participate in this tournament will end up next season. And we've already seen progress with one former champion from the rural classification last year that made it to their state playoffs. So what are we going to see from these next set of teams that made it, whether it was a run in the tournament or to the title game? I'm excited to see Childs next season on some of their returning players, get back into wanting to play in the 5A state playoffs.
Yeah, looking at just some of the seniors here on this team, Gavin Ford finishes really stellar career. We saw him at John Paul before the transfer. Really exceptional talent. Looking forward to seeing him play on Saturdays along with several other guys. But yeah, the Timberwolves running game just didn't get going like we expected it to. But Gavin Ford finished 15 of 29 for 189 yards. Cade Fryer hauled in 6 receptions for 73 yards. And then, I got to give a shout out. Cooper Bradley, 17 tackles in there. Alex Asantes, man, way to go out, man. Way to go out. Had 19 tackles, 4 solo, 2 tackles for a loss. That's how you do it, man. One more time on the field, leaving it all on the field is how you definitely want to do it. But for the Timberwolves, man, we talk about those extra games and how they just help your program, because your underclassmen are just getting more experience. And playoff football is playoff football. You're in, Cofield, like you said, A one and done situation just makes you more prepared to face adversity. I look for this team to be in the playoffs next year. I think if the talent is there, they definitely got an opportunity because experiences like this just go a long way. So shout out to Tiles. Great run this season as they fall in the third round of the Florida Invitational Upper Class Tournament to Gonzales Tate, 14-35. Tate will go on to play for the FIT Championship against Dr. Joaquin Garcia out of South Florida. So, but yeah, Timberwolves great run this year. We look forward to seeing them, seeing what they can do in 2026. So yeah, down south of where we were at, about 50 miles, Port St. Joe handled business against Holmes County, and this one was close first. These two teams battled in what was a rematch from earlier in the season. 8-9 was the score in the regular season, week number 2, and these two teams meet up here as fate would have it, where both of these teams get a chance to go at it for a shot at a state title berth in the rural Florida Invitational Tournament in the third round. Both of these teams had buys, and these were teams, just for everybody to know, like, man, they were this close to making the playoffs. You're talking about a game or two here. Holmes County had 3 losses by less than a touchdown. So you're talking about 1 point loss here, a couple of points here. Port St. Joe showed plenty of flashes of greatness during the regular season. So both teams evenly matched. And the Tiger Sharks, just in a huge second half effort, they pulled away from the Blue Devils. This one was close, I think, somewhere, I would say midway, late in third quarter. Eddie, is that about right?
Yeah, it was just time to where these two teams were like evenly matched, and then somehow Tiger Sharks just found a way to just break loose and get ahead of the Blue Devils, man. And shout out to Holmes County. The season they had, the final push towards the end of the regular season to pursue a chance to make the rural class state playoffs. You didn't get in, but you still made the best of it in the rural FIT tournament, and look how far you made it in this tournament now, with a team next season returning with postseason experience. You were one game away from making it to the championship game, and we'll see what that's going to do for this Holmes County team going into next season, who finishes the year at an even 500 at 6-6.
Yeah, for Port St. Joe, it was the Jaden Curry show. He found, I want to say he found 6 different receivers throughout the night. A lot of what he was able to do was just really being a dual threat, passing the ball very well. I think he was, just kind of like, getting into a groove there. And for Port St. Joe, they can score quickly. Like, this is a team that easily you leave a guy in space and then boom, he's off to the races. 10-13 for 161. But then also, when you look at rushing yards, he went over 200, 212 on the ground for Jaden Curry. Just an absolute menace for the Blue Devils to deal with, and just vaults Port St. Joe into the Florida Invitational Championship game, where they will be taking on Fort White. Hang on, everybody. We're going to break that game down in just a moment. But, man, for the Tiger Sharks, this has been pretty much, you really talk about a team where this is very deserving. This is a team that over the past 2-3 seasons has been so in battle. We think about last season where they lost a player to just sudden death, really on the field, a very, very just traumatic moment to try and play through, shorten their season a little bit. A few years prior, they lost a couple of teammates to a tragic car accident. This is just a team that really has just been through it. Like, they have been through all the trials that you hope no teenager, especially a student athlete, has to go through. You hate to lose a teammate like that, let alone multiple teammates in such a short span. I think what, really just giving a huge shout out to Tanner Jones. He's done a great job rallying this team. They really have a family type of environment down there. I've talked to several people that just talk about how just this is just a close knit group, and for them to be competing for a state championship at any level, it doesn't matter. It just means a lot to this community. So for Port St. Joe, they'll be taking on Fort White. They get the 33-20 victory in a rematch over Holmes County. Yeah, in any shape or fashion, you just kind of got to root for the Tiger Sharks in this one. Not just only because of what they've been through, but more so what kind of just the kind of poise that they've had in just a difficult situation to get to this point.
Yeah, Mark, you said it. Absolutely, man. What a journey it has been for the Tiger Sharks. And, I think right now it's not done yet. You a championship game to play for here, a chance to win a tournament title. And I'm excited for them in their championship game. And you also get the experience. I headed down to the Villages in Ocala. That's a really nice stadium. I'm not too sure if our audience is very familiar, but if you have a chance, ladies and gentlemen, Google up what that stadium looks like. It is really nice down there in Ocala.
Yeah, they have two. They have a smaller stadium, and then there's this huge I didn't even know I didn't know they built something of that size. So I would not be surprised if they don't lobby for all the state championship games. I think it's a 10,000 seat stadium.
It is. Yeah. And when I mean all state championships, they host everything. Like just all of last week, SSAA got their championship games out the way, and now they've made room for these next group of FHSAA related championship games that are going to be hosted.
Yeah, that's going to be there's going to be a lot of discussions in the off season about what happens at the championship level. We've had some discussions just prior to the show about what's going to happen to the rural classification, and several teams have opted into the SSAA. We know numbers change every year in terms of population, so it's going to be different to say the least. But let's keep it rolling here as we get to championship week. Port St. Joe at 6-5, the Tiger Sharks taking on the Fort White Indians at 7-4. Fort White, I believe, is I think Fort White had if I look at common opponents, I think Fort White took on Lafayette earlier in the year. And I was looking for common opponents. I don't think they played the same people. But Fort White, really by benefit of just a couple of bye weeks, has only played one game in the FIT tournament. So we were just talking about that. I'm not sure if it's fair or not. I think for Port St. Joe, it's just like, hey, spot the ball. Doesn't matter. Whoever's on the other side that's not wearing purple and gold, we're gonna play them hard anyway. But for Fort White, they just kind of be on hiatus, but when you consider the dead period, they've been off sporadically for about 3 weeks during this playoff run. So that's just a weird kind of scenario.
Man, it doesn't matter. You're playing for a title. You get excited. You want to win. Very fortunate not to have to play a couple of games, but Port St. Joe, sometimes it's better to be continuously playing, and because you guys get used to it, keeping that routine, doing what you normally do. Missing 2 and 3 weeks sometimes can throw you off, and you not get back the way you were. Because when during the season, you get to you sort of hit your groove in the middle of the season, and so when you get in, and when you get too much time off, you got to regenerate that, try to find that groove again. And I think with this game, this would be pretty exciting. These teams are pretty even.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I mean, for Fort White, yeah, I think only one game. are going to be ready for the chance to pursue a title in the postseason and what that could do for their programs going in season. So I'm excited for this matchup. I wish I could watch it in some type of way, but you know, we'll see how that goes. And I know it'll be a lot of off-season discussions on what they could do to perhaps make the rule bracket a little bit more interesting. Maybe add another classification. Who knows?
Yeah, let's take a look at Fort White. Everything is going through Jaden Jackson. Quarterback for the Indians is already thrown for 1,600 yards, has added another 500 rushing on the year. He is their offense, make no mistake about it. Very dynamic, dual threat kind of kid. And this is what Port St. Joe would be going up against. And really for the Indians, it's just been, kind of one of those where we know as they are one of the top seeds in the rural, they missed the playoffs by just a game. It really wasn't. It really was one of those scenarios where they were just right there on the line from making the playoffs. But you can see there's Jackson right there scrambling for some yards. He is one of those where, just always a threat to run. Also likes to spread the ball around a little bit, see if he can find the open receiver downfield. But a lot of it just has to do with just, hey, you got to contain a dual threat quarterback in order to give your dual threat quarterback a shot. And so I think for Port St. Joe, they're going to be seeing a lot of what they, a lot of what they do in practice. So it'll be like, facing a mirror of themselves. If you can find a way to get your defense involved and contain this guy, you got a great chance. And I think that for more of the same, especially on offense, you're going up against a defense that also looks a lot like you. So I expect this game to be a little bit closer than what people expect. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like similar to most of Port St. Joe's tighter contests where they're, just only, between I would say like a 13-10 or 20-18. For the Tiger Sharks, they've been in a lot of close games. I do think that Fort White looks like we lost Eddie for a second, but he'll be jumping back in. But I think for Coach, for Fort White, a lot of this is just going to come down to looking at how Port St. Joe is just really opportunistic. Tiger Sharks are an explosive team. Saw them go on the road against Rutherford and just absolutely demolish the Rams on the road. So this is a team that knows how to win in a road environment. They don't shy away from competition. I look for them to really take advantage of some opportunities early and often and try to jump out. I wouldn't be surprised if Port St. Joe jumped out to a lead early in this game because they have the athletes to do it.
Well, they have an experienced coach. I'm not sure who the coach is at Fort White. That's my fault. I should have did my research on that. But Tanner Jones is a very experienced coach. He's been around. He played football in Wakulla. He was a quarterback because he got a thought process. So you looking at a game where where you got an experienced coach. And Fort White, from what I saw during the season, were pretty. They played in some pretty tough games themselves. So usually in a playoff game, the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is the team that wins. You can't make a lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties, a lot of turnovers. You can't do that. You just need what the team that makes the least amount of mistakes probably win the football game.
Yeah, when you look at Fort White, for them on defense, it really comes down to they have a pair of senior linebackers, Darian Brinson and Tegan Bell. Tegan Bell actually is a sophomore linebacker, but both of these guys averaging between 5 and 8 tackles a game, really getting after it. This is a team that when I say they mirror Port St. Joe, their leading interception getter is also their quarterback. So Jaden Jackson also helps his own cause. He's got 4 INTs on the year. these two teams are actually, pretty, they mirror each other pretty well. I think it'll be an exciting game. I do think that the Tiger Sharks, if they have the ability to contain what they already are familiar with, I think they got a great opportunity in this game. I think it'll be close, but I do think the Tiger Sharks could potentially hold an edge just in explosiveness. Now, Fort White has been known to grab some special teams points. They got great athletes, especially in the return game. Um, but when you look at some of their signature wins, they had a 47-0 victory over the Union County earlier in the year. Took care of business Hamilton County 35-6. And then they had a big upset over Baker County. That's 3A Baker County, 19-7. And so this is a team that's been battle tested. They've got some signature wins on their resume. So this will be a good contest. I think for Port St. Joe, this will probably be one of the tougher opponents that they face. But keep in mind the Tiger Sharks is we know who Port St. Joe has played. It's just a matter of being able to take all of that experience. Remember, this is a team that played Blountstown, Leon, Bozeman, Rutherford. These are all teams that are outside of their classification. They did that, really for the entire month of September. So I look for Coach Jones to take that experience and say, hey, we played some of the best of the best. Now let's go ahead and grab us some hardware and let's take it back to Port St. Joe. So this is going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. That kickoff time is going to be 1 p.m. on Friday, 12/5. So get your popcorn ready or whatever snacks you got on hand, and just get ready for a great football game. I think it's going to be a great contest, and that one kicks off at 1 p.m. Eastern in the Villages. All right, what you been waiting for? The heavyweight title bout. Blountstown, undefeated Blountstown Tigers, 12-0. Taking on the Hawthorne Hornets at 10-1. And, I got some news that Blountstown was considered an underdog, and I don't know how. But, I respect my sources. I just try to make sure I just report on what I hear. But this one has everything in it I think that any fan would want to see, regardless of classification. You've got D1 commits all over the field. You've got special talents. A lot of what we've seen out of Hawthorne is just really their past 5 to 7 years have been nothing but just exceptional football being played. They've been in the state title game. I think 3 of the past 5 years they've played. They've taken on the hardware at least twice. This is a team that basically returns a lot of senior talent. They upended Florida High at home. The Seminoles went down there to the Gainesville area to take on Hawthorne and came back with a loss. Hawthorne's been battle tested, and a lot of what we've seen from them really has just been them playing outside of their weight class, very similar to Madison County. But this team is built a little bit different. They've played Oakleaf. We've seen them play University Christian and the 1A classification and win. Took on Denellen in a big win before the playoffs started. So this is a team that's been battle tested as well. So a lot of what we're going to see here is just another tough contest for Blountstown. But I do think that one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that the matchups, honestly, you can go back and forth, but this is going to be a defensive battle. Hawthorne, I think one of the biggest strengths outside of what they can do offensively, this is a team that just doesn't give up very many points. I think they've pitched, I think they've had 4 shutouts on the year where they've kept teams out of the end zone. They don't give up very many points, for the most part. I think one of their highest scoring affairs I think they gave up 27 to Florida High. So, yeah, Blountstown will be, I think for the Tigers, it'll be kind of, I don't want to say unfamiliar territory, but this is the furthest that they've been out of the Panhandle. So they'll be making a trip down to Central Florida to take on Hawthorne. But a lot of what we've seen is just looking at how teams match up with each other. And, for Hawthorne, they're definitely going to be keying in on Amari Thomas. That we already know. Just a guy that's so explosive like that, you can't leave him alone. But I look at some other playmakers for Blountstown, and I think that uh, they could easily give Hawthorne fits. We saw Jalen Jones take off on some very big runs, Eddie, last week. We saw DeMarcus Roberts get in on quite a few plays, scoring plays at that. We talked about Curtis Ellis. We talked about, I think they have I was looking for, um, I think it was Cam Martin also got in on some of the scoring action. It's hard to really say who can get the ball because there's so many weapons on that Blountstown offense.
Mark,
Absolutely.
Mark, we know who getting the ball. It ain't no. I don't care how many weapons. I know number 4 is gonna have. He's gonna have his share of touches because they do throw it and he runs it. So if I'm on the Hawthorne team, I'm looking for number 4. It's nobody else. I'd rather for anyone else other than him to beat me because he's been a focal point of their offense the whole season, and all these other guys, doing what they do is fine. But if you want to beat this Blountstown team, you got to stop number 4. But the quarterback, I was impressed with him last at the last game when they ran the option. He did a very good job. He kept them off balance. He kept Pahokee off balance. And the one thing I didn't see, and I saw in a couple other games, Blountstown can throw the football. They didn't. I think the weather had something to do with the game, and people. It wasn't many passes made, but you can't just sit there and line up and try to stop the run. You're gonna have to play because they do have some talent all over the field, like you said. I look for this game. I think we'll know early how this game's gonna shake out because both of these teams, Hawthorne is an experienced playoff team. They've been in the state finals, 3 times. They know they expect, and when they go there, this team has been there. They've seen the other players on their team, the older folks on the team playing the state championship win, and it's a small town. I've been there once or twice. I know somebody from there too, and the whole town is probably gonna be at the game. Blountstown better bring their folks too. It's gonna be exciting. Great matchup. I am definitely looking forward to this game and seeing how these two teams match up.
Yeah, absolutely, coach. I mean, judging by these highlights right here, what I'm seeing by Hawthorne, man, they have a very fast-paced, quick attack on offense with their passing game and their running. The defense doesn't look too bad either. You said they're going to be after, number 4 all night, but make no mistake, that's the beauty of this Blountstown team all season long. They are explosive with multiple weapons. You're going to be so concentrated and busy on one player, you don't forget these other playmakers that they have. And yes, he was in the end zone a fair share of times last week, but so were the rest of his other teammates too, which is why I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone on Blountstown contribute because it's gonna take a team effort to beat Hawthorne. Judging by these highlights from what I'm seeing, how they play and how quick their running back is and how he's able to bust through the defense like that into the end zone. This is going to be a very good test for Blountstown's defense that, held up pretty strong against Madison County. And even when Madison County made that comeback towards the end in the second half, they still hold firm. So I'm excited to see what, the Tigers are going to do against the Hornets. And also excited to see what the Hornets are going to do against the Tigers. I mean, and both fan bases being in full force in Ocala at the Villages.
Yeah, Hawthorne is what you call a toolbox team. They got a tool for that. They got you want to run the ball. They got an offensive line that can make a hole for the running back. You need to go big on big. They got size. You want to pass the ball and spread people out. They got a quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over very often, has the ability to kind of pick you apart, kind of go at your secondary a little bit. When you take a look at how this team is built in conjunction with Blountstown, it's just more so you're going up against a really balanced team. And for Hawthorne, a lot of it, we talk about toolbox team, they got a quarterback that can run and throw. So he's able to kind of sit back in the pocket, find some spots, but he can also take off and beat you with his legs. They did a great job against putting Florida high into some really uncomfortable scenarios and situations. And I think right now what Blountstown has really got going for them is just the experience. Going against Madison and being able to really, I would say, if it weren't for that third quarter, they dominated Madison in the first half. If you can do that to a team that's been, as experienced and as battle tested as that, Blountstown should not flinch with Hawthorne. This should not be a team where, unless Blountstown does something uncharacteristic, I expect them to be able to go up against an opponent like this because they've seen some similarities before. Hawthorne, make no mistake, Hawthorne will be a tough matchup, but I do look at how Blountstown has been able to just handle things and go up against adversity. You took down Pahokee and a very, very explosive team with a lot of weapons, and you kept their set. You used your secondary to keep that passing attack under control. You looked at Madison, and Madison had a dynamic running game and dual threat quarterback. They also could throw the ball, and you neutralized that. This could just be one of those things where it's just like, hey, play 4 quarters of football, let your offense get into a rhythm, and let your powerful, dominant offensive line unit wear these guys down. Because I think that's one of the secret weapons of Blountstown is that you key in on Amari Thomas so much, you forget this offensive line is these guys got size. Eddie, you and I were in the locker room. Every one of those kids is big. Right? So when you talk about just a sizable front and you get these guys going, once they're in a rhythm, I think that's where Blountstown really has the separation to be able to pull away and take home the hardware. It's going to be in the trenches.
Mark, it's interesting because, as you know, when I was coaching, we had a star running back that everybody had to line up and stop. And they had to stop him, but in both playoff games, championship games, he had over 130 yards. They might have slowed him up from getting 200. But if you use a guy like what I watched Amari Thomas do, is he put his foot in the ground. If you're not in place, if your linebackers don't fit, he gone. And I wonder if Hawthorne faced anybody at the caliber running back that he is. That is a tough kid because he breaks tackles. He breaks tackles and take it to the house. When you're a college coach and you see a kid break tackles and still take it to the distance, you're impressed. That's impressive because everybody can run through big old open holes. This kid breaks tackles. And what I haven't seen this whole season, and I don't want to jinx him, I haven't seen him turn the ball over. And that's exception when he carry the ball as much as he does. Look for this game. I think it's going to be close. And like I said about the other game, team with the least amount of mistakes going to win the football game.
Agreed.
Yeah, this one I like. I just like the fact that we're getting we really are getting a championship caliber matchup. I think these two teams match up very well. Coach, I agree with you. I don't know if Hawthorne has faced an athlete quite like Amari Thomas. Eddie, you and I saw it in person. You touch him, that ain't gonna bring him down, unless the official blows the whistle. We saw him break tackles where we thought he was down. We even stopped moving the camera because we thought he was down, and then boom, he's gone. So they're really gonna have to figure out a way to kind of jump him. If you can't put one guy on him, he just finds a way to just get out of those kind of situations. But for Hawthorne, and really for the Blountstown defense, you got to contain Roundtree. He's a 2,500-yard passer. Definitely has the ability to make some moves with his legs, but he's really not the dominant back. That's Gillis. He's their and I would just say in close yardage, he's their guy, especially because when Hawthorne, a lot of what they do is they eat up huge chunks of yardage in their passing game. And then before you know it, they're on the 8 yard line or the 6 yard line, and then Gillis just punches it in, or he picks up the first down. So it's really Blountstown secondary getting active and getting involved, making sure that they create just the same way you made Pahokie's quarterback uncomfortable. You're going to have to make Roundtree uncomfortable in this game in order to have a shot. But I definitely like Blountstown's chances. I look forward to Coach Wagner holding up that trophy at the end of the game. But it'll be a great, great atmosphere. And I do know that Blountstown, I mean, for their fans, this doesn't happen every year. So I expect a lot of people from Calhoun County to be shutting it down early on Thursday so they can make plans to hit the road, heading down I-10 via 75 on Friday for that one. It's must see, can't miss it. And I do expect a lot of red and black to be in the stands at the Villages on Friday night. So this one taking place Friday night, 7 p.m. In the Village. This is going to be a great atmosphere. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of what we have seen is just, man. And I'm gonna post that video. I'm not the best at putting out content, but I will say these are going to be. It's really two small towns, and I expect stands to be packed for this game.
Yeah,
Man, this is just high school football championship at its finest, and it just goes to show how far we've come, in the state of Florida. Like my cousin told me, I mean, back in the day, like, Coach Cofield, you remember like the highest percentage championship team got to host the state championship on campus.
And how you know I remember, man? I might have been a baby.
Come on now. I'm being
yeah, I do remember that was exciting. I mean, you get the state championship at your home place, man. And it's an advantage though that you got.
And
you
that's
just imagine coming all the way from Miami, going to Tallahassee or Pensacola, vice versa. Man, that's got to be tough on the road team.
Yeah,
so but I mean,
y'all did neutral site afterwards. I think about 2 years later.
Yeah, the neutral site is okay. I mean, if I'm the home team, if I was going to be the home team, I wouldn't. I'd be kind of disappointed. But it used to be exciting back in the day when the playoffs. When those games were state championship games, were at the other team's place. I mean, can you imagine if this game was in Hawthorne or Blountstown? If you ever went to Hawthorne, you gotta go through Hogtown to get there, and it's a small town.
Yeah, I've been to both. I've seen Blountstown Stadium, but judging by the scenes of what I've seen in Hawthorne Stadium, you're going to need to bring additional bleachers for that. Yeah, it would be. It would just be too much.
Very eerily similar because you look at Hawthorne. I've been there once, and you basically head down 75. You get to Gainesville, you make a left. You head into Blountstown, you go down I-10, you make a right. Make a left again. Heading west. A lot of it just has to do with just, looking at, the kind of support you get. It's nothing like having the whole bleachers erupt for a big play. I mean, I'm talking about a 15-yard run will get everybody on their feet. And it's just something different about it. So this is truly going to be Friday Night Lights football. We're going to be keying in on both of these games. We're going to really have our Friday afternoon kind of set. I'm gonna have I'm gonna have my Friday afternoon kind of blocked off a little bit. But man, wishing both these teams great practice weeks. We're gonna try to get up with both coaches sometime. Hopefully they'll carve out 5 minutes before quarters online. But man, it's gonna be a great atmosphere on Friday. Looking forward to both of these teams bringing some hardware back to the Big Bend and Panhandle areas. Just really a testament to our area of football. Consistently, we produce somebody that's competing for a state championship. Last year, it was Gaston County. And, years before, we've had a pretty decent run, but we've never been without somebody that hasn't made a state championship berth in quite some time. I think you got to go back 10 years. where we didn't have anyone competing for a state championship. So just a testament to the football in this area. Wishing both teams a great game and safe travels there and back. Hopefully coming back with some hardware. And I really expect it. These two teams are definitely deserving, and they have the talent and great coaching staffs. We rarely mention, some of the great coaching staffs, but man, these two staffs have put together really good teams consistently over the years that we've seen them. It's going to be a great game. We appreciate everybody rocking with us here for the Extra Point here on Wednesday night. We're going to be back next week to recap state championship games, hopefully with some jubilation. I'm a country boy, so I sip my sweet tea out of a mason jar glass. We're wishing everybody a great Thanksgiving. Looking forward to a great December coming up here. We're going to talk signing day next week, along with some other recruiting info. This is just the beginning, so congrats to all the early signees on signing day here, December the 3rd. And man, championship week, we're looking forward to it Friday night. We appreciate everybody for rocking with us here on the Extra Point. For Four Quarters Online, I'm Mark Adams, Coach Cofield, Eddie Quinkis Jr., my tag team partners. We'll catch everybody next Wednesday. We'll have rapid reaction on Friday night for Friday night finals. Other than that, we'll see everybody next